Coming up, a date is set for Referendum Day, with the summer poll will ask Bahamians to consider.
Also ahead, prayer for parliamentarians as the House celebrates a milestone.
And the only eyewitness to the death of Stephen Sherman testifies today, her account of the final moments of her uncle's life. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Kendino Knowles. As always, it's good to have you joining us.
Topping the news tonight, Prime Minister the Right Honourable Perry Christie today announced the date for a referendum which will poll support for a series of constitutional changes.
The main focus is equality for Bahamian women. Cyan Thompson was there as the Prime Minister detailed the moral questions the electorate will be asked to finally put to rest.
Bahamian women and men can expect to see changes to the Constitution as it relates to parents passing on citizenship to their children. Prime Minister Christie gave the timeline to get this done.
It is now anticipated, firstly, that the amending bills will be introduced in the House of Assembly before the end of the year. Secondly, that the passage of the bills through both the House of Assembly and the Senate will be completed by the end of February 2014. And thirdly, that a referendum on the matter will be held throughout the nation not later than the end of June 2014. Following an ample period for public education and discussion, which will be led by the Constitutional Commission.
Gender equality, especially for women, has been a pressing issue for some time now. The Prime Minister explained those concerns.
A Bahamian woman who is married to a non-Bahamian should have the same constitutional right that a Bahamian man has to pass her Bahamian citizenship to her child at birth, irrespective of whether the child is born abroad or in the Bahamas. Honourable members are aware that at present there is no such constitutional right in relation to the foreign-born child of a married Bahamian mother where the father of that child is a non-Bahamian. 3. A Bahamian woman should have the same constitutional right that a Bahamian man has to obtain citizenship for her foreign spouse, but subject to amendments to the Bahamas Nationality Act to introduce further safeguards against citizenship claims that might be based on marriages of convenience. A Bahamian man who fathers a child with a foreign woman outside of marriage should have the same constitutional right that an unwed Bahamian woman has to pass citizenship to that child, subject to his proving paternity. Right now, Mr. Speaker, such a child would have to take the citizenship of its foreign mother, leaving the Bahamian father unable to pass Bahamian citizenship to his child.
Less than 40 of the 73 recommendations will need formal legal adjustments. The Prime Minister also advised that these constitutional changes will happen over a period of years.
To achieve full equality between men and women with respect to the acquisition and transmission of Bahamian nationality. And secondly, the expansion of the definition of discrimination in Article 26 of the Constitution to include discrimination based on sex as a prohibited ground so that women would be able to enjoy the same level of protection from discrimination that men already enjoy.
The government is not expected to include any additional items in this round of recommendations from the Constitutional Commission. For the ZNS Network News, I'm Cyan Thompson.
Well, Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Bernard Nottage, updating members of the House of Assembly on the disciplinary hearings of 5 Defense Force officers, all implicated in the alleged abuse of Cuban detainees at the Carmichael Road Detention Center. The National Security Minister named all of the independent observers, who are all senior legal officials, in the House of Assembly today.
As a result of investigations conducted into the allegations, it was determined by the Defense Force to bring charges against individuals concerned by way of proceedings in accordance with the Defense Act and regulations. The proceedings, which are being held in camera to avoid publication of matters which may compromise national security, commenced on Monday, the 30th of September at the Defense Force Base Coral Harbor. A full report of the proceedings will be issued at their conclusion. 3 independent observers, namely Madam Justice Cheryl Albury, retired, Commander Leon Smith, retired, and Reverend Dr. Ranford Patterson, President of the Bahamas Christian Council, have agreed to observe the conduct of the proceedings.
Now, Dr. Nottage also explained the duties of this group and another group that's been assigned to assess and critique operations at the detention center.
Their responsibility will be to monitor the conduct of all phases of these proceedings for fairness and transparency. Mr. Speaker, I am also to inform this House that Mr. Justice Emmanuel Sadabe, retired, the Reverend William Higgs, and Mr. Douglas Hanna, former Superintendent of Police, have agreed to serve on a committee to inquire into the administration and management of the detention center and to make recommendations for its efficient administration and management. This committee has been asked to complete its inquiry within a reasonable time and to submit a report to the government.
Now, the House of Assembly will resume on Wednesday, October 9th.
Also during this morning's session, House Speaker Dr. Kendall Major ruled that comments made by Tall Pines MP the Honorable Leslie Miller, who named and blamed a private citizen for his son's death back on August 12th, were to be expunged from the record of the House. Here's why the Speaker says he made that decision.
I would now like to assert that it is a sacred set of privileges members of this Honorable House do enjoy. These privileges are unique to parliamentarians and they are not enjoyed by members of the public. Attached to these privileges, however, is the assumption of a certain level of responsibility and decorum. Because this assumption is a fixed one, a member of parliament who deliberately or inadvertently falls below a reasonable standard of conduct diminishes the entire institution. Members, therefore, ought never to yield to the temptation of abusing the sacred privileges of this Honorable House, no matter how tempting the prospects. I say this because in the aftermath of what took place, the Honorable Member reported to have said that it was not his intention to infer what was widely reported to have been said.
Now, moving forward, Dr. Major implored House members to uphold their responsibility and keep debates at a standard befitting to the office. Dr. Major extended personal apologies to the defamed person and members of the public who were outraged.
The House has given its Speaker a wide range of powers to control its debates, but in the final analysis, the Speaker is servant of this House. And as servant, therefore, I was disappointed that a private citizen with no recourse to justice was defamed. And as a result of this occurrence, and upon reflection, I feel a moral sense of duty to make amends, with notwithstanding the fact that the damage was done. Consequently, I do hereby order that the statement made by the Honorable Member for Tall Pines with respect to the highlighting of the name of the individual be expunged from the records of this House.
Leader of the opposition and member of parliament for Kalani, Dr. Hubert Minnis, is happy to return to the House of Assembly following his 2-sitting suspension after he was named earlier this summer for refusing to withdraw comments he made about Prime Minister Perry Christie and his relationship with international fashion designer Peter Nygaard. During a press briefing before the start of this morning's session, Dr. Minnis expressed his concern on a number of national issues, including the issues surrounding Defense Force officers and the detention center.
We're concerned about issues that affect the nation today, and therefore it's essential for us to be back to deal with issues that affect Bahamians. As leaders in this country and as parliamentarians, history would judge us not what we do when there are good times, but history will judge us what we do when there are bad times, when Bahamians are suffering. History would judge and look at what we've done in terms of improving the business community, especially creating opportunities for Bahamians, for small businesses, etc.
Parliamentarians returned to the House of Assembly today for the first sitting of Parliament following the summer break.
However, the brief session was suspended for parliamentarians to attend a special church service in recognition of the 284th anniversary of Parliament. Carla Palmer reports on the service held at St. Agnes Anglican Church.
The service of Thanksgiving in celebration of the 284th anniversary of Parliament of the Bahamas served to do several things. Among them, remind parliamentarians that as elected officials, they ought serve all Bahamians with honesty, integrity, dignity, and compassion.
I do think that this Parliament should also serve remind us that we continue to need God's help and guidance. As a civil system, we sometimes become too inwardly and forget that our mission is to improve the quality of life for all Bahamians.
We were elected to serve the people of the Bahamas. As elected members of Parliament, we must seek at all times to improve the quality of life for all Bahamians. It is my wish, and I sincerely hope that we will do just that.
While parliamentarians like Dr. Bernard Nottage and Mr. Nico Grant expressed awareness of their purpose as parliamentarians, for those who may be uncertain of their role as representatives of the people, the Venerable Archdeacon I. Ranfley Brown, rector of St. Agnes Parish, reminded them.
We must know our history, accept the baton of responsibility in Parliament, and maintain the standard of being gentlemen and ladies. Devotions should remind you every session how awesome is the place and the need for each to enter circumspectly, knowing the standard is required and maintain it. We must never forget our call. Despite the fact that you may be political, you must remember that it's a calling. It ain't yours. Because next Parliament session, you'll be out there selling connect like everybody else.
Additionally, Father Brown called on parliamentarians to better promote things Bahamian, including celebrating and recognizing more meaningfully the contributions of Bahamians and reward them respectfully.
And we still here fighting these political foolishness. But who is who? When by after 40 years, put some up is rolling. He wasn't that bad. Put some up is Linden. Cut the foolishness, y'all.
In the end, he called on Bahamians everywhere to wear their identity proudly, wherever they may go. I'm Carla Palmer for ZNS Network News.
In our first look at weather, Tropical Storm Jerry continues to hang around out in the far eastern Atlantic without any threat to the islands. But outside of our studios just now, we have partly cloudy skies, your temperature 83 degrees, relative humidity 70%, winds out of the east at 6 knots, your barometric pressure 1,015.7 millibars, that's about 29.99 inches, and it is steady. But stay tuned, temperatures around the Palm Reef Islands, travel and boating forecast is still to come.
Well, still ahead tonight, what led to that confrontation at Anatole Rogers yesterday? We'll tell you coming up.
Cancer hear what you can do to keep the disease at bay. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Shell Helix Ultra. Performance you can see.